Well, thanks for joining the call. I'm actually calling from overseas, so I hope that the reception is fairly good. So if for some reason I'm not coming out clearly, please let me know. The goal of this informational section is basically to answer any questions that you may have pertaining to the ISP that was released for the CaTS Community College program. So in general, the main thrust of this mechanism is to try and increase community and academic partnership in translation clinical research. So the goal here is to bring both community and academic investigators who are collaborating and to be able to use this mechanism to generate some pilot data that in turn may serve as the basis for maybe applying for another pilot data with much more money at stake, or to even go directly to NIH with some of the different mechanisms that are out there, whether it's the R mechanism or some other mechanism. So that's really the goal of this, is to really be deliberate in fostering the academic and community partnership to create this bi-directional relationship between researchers and the community. So having said that, I'll open it up for any specific questions that the potential applicants may have, and we'll try our best to answer the questions. If we don't know the answers, we'll research it and get back with you, but hopefully we'll be able to address all your questions on this call.
Dr. Sarkong?
Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Sarkong, this is Michelle Balan from the Tulane School of Social Work. I had a question regarding the actual full application. On page 8 of the RFA, it says that there's only one application for community academic team. So does that mean from my School of Social Work there can only be one application for my department?
No, but let's say, for example, you and an academic partner, and I'll just make up what like the YMCA. That team cannot put forth more than one application, but there can be multiple applications from the same institution or from the same department. It just has to be, the investigator team is not going to be the same. It could be a different set of team members.
Okay.
In our first cohort, we had multiple applications from the same institution.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Maybe to facilitate the discussion and maybe to help prompt some questions.
Good afternoon. This is Alicia Mason joining the group, the conference call.
Oh, yeah. How you doing?
Hi. How are you?
You had a question? I'm doing well.
No.
You had a question?
No, sir. I'm just joining the conference call, so I was just saying my name.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that maybe I may need to underscore is the fact that part of this mechanism is looking for things that maybe have priority in the community in terms of community needs. So we're looking for the best ideas, not so much the highly polished proposal. If it comes through, that's fine. But part of the component of the didactic is to reinforce the scientific research that the community partner needs to understand, and then the academic partner understanding the engagement of the community and the being able to utilize community research principles and methods. So I think most times when the reviewers look at the proposals, they're looking for things that have high impact, high significance. So being able to make a very strong case in terms of the scientific premise of your research proposed project will become very important. I think that's really more of what is looked at. In terms of, as you go through the process of didactic, if you're selected as one of the awardees, then through that process, you refine your proposal, because after maybe listening to a couple of presentations and more interaction with other community partners who are part of the selected awardees, you may decide that you may want to change certain aspects of the proposal. So that's really the goal. And then the second part of it is actual implementation of the proposed project. But also part of the refining process is to be able to make sure that the proposals will be able to stand the muster in terms of NIH review. Because we're going to be using NIH dollars, the NIH, the institute that funds CaTS staff would need to review each proposal and give it a final approval before the funds are released. So that's pretty much something that I think is important for us to all bear in mind. There is some level of commitment in terms of participating in the didactic. We know that everybody cannot participate in every session, but there has to be representation from the team, both on the academic side and also on the community side. And we're also looking at the multiple PI as equal partners, not as one as a primary and the other as a sub, but really coming together like a multiple PI mechanism. So we want that to be very clear from the outset.
So this is Robert Newton from Pennington. I have a question. So, you know, the funding is $10,000, and so it's not like we're going to be doing some long-term, high-impact in terms of intervention, because we don't have time without the money for that. So, is the committee going to be receptive to, you know, like we're trying to we're trying to get part of our intervention attack. Like we have an idea of what we want to do, but there's a component that we're missing that we need. Maybe like for example, we submitted a grant, we got a score on it, but they said you need to show us you can do this one piece with your community partner. Is that the kind of thing? Like, and if we apply for this, going after that one piece, is that the kind of thing that you guys are looking for?
Well, I think I wouldn't say that would be maybe the only thing we're looking for, but I think that would be definitely something that would give you would be able to make a strong case for. So part of the goal of this is to be able to create a pilot study. So if, let's say, for example, you had an NIH proposal or to some foundation, they liked your idea, but they felt like there's some question about feasibility in terms of that, and you need some pilot data. And the small pot of money will provide you with that pilot data to make you more competitive. Then that's what will be very attractive, because part of the whole issue with this is we also want to see a good return on the investment. So the fact that people are able to leverage these funds and to get funding, external funding, looks very promising. So I would say that in this scenario that you just described, I think that's a potentially a good project that I would definitely put forth an application.
Yeah, so the feasibility component of it, yes, is what I was trying to articulate. So, yes, that's what I was thinking. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Are we able to ask questions right now?
Yeah, it's open for, it's mostly a question and answer session.
Okay, and sorry if I stating a question that was already asked. So I'm with Auctioner, and we already have a
a patient research advisory board that is compensated by auctioner. Since they are compensated by auction, would we be able to utilize them as the community component for the grant?
So, I mean, in the case where, I think it all depends on how you would, I mean, if you're just basically using the advisory board in an advisory capacity, then no, that would not qualify as a community and academic partnership, because the community advisory board is just serving in an advisory capacity. Now, let's say, for example, if there's one of the community advisory board members who's part of an organization that's doing work in the community, and you all identify a project that you want to be able to put forth because it meets the needs of the community that that organization serves, then that person could serve as the PI on the community side, and then link with the auctioneer investigator, and then propose a project that would be done in the community. So in that sense, then that would be a viable project. But if you just basically using the advisory board as a community partner, but they still almost like playing the same role that they're currently playing as an advisory capacity, then that would not make it truly a community partner in terms of the multiple PI-ship.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the other thing I would say is that in the interest of time and that the questions people are still thinking about, maybe questions to ask, is that the letter of intent is due July 16th. And basically what we do with the letter of intent will be to look at it and to make sure that the community partnership is really solid. That's really the major thing we look at. It's not so much of the project that you're proposing, because in that case, you're already going to develop that fully with the application. So we want to make sure that the partnership that you're proposing sort of fits what we're looking for in this mechanism. So that would be something that I think would be important. And then also some demonstration that there is some commitment between both the academic side and the community side and participating in the program, particularly if that project is selected for consideration for funding. The deadline would be August the 13th, so, and basically you submit it via the website through Sparks, and in the RFA there's a link for that. The letter of intent is basically emailed, and I think the instructions clearly indicates that. But if you have any questions that didn't come up today, please still feel free to contact the three individuals that are listed in the RFA, and one of us will at least try and address your question that you may have. So we still want to encourage everybody, even if the question comes up later that didn't actually pop up in this conference.
Okay.
If for some of you may be curious as to how the proposals are reviewed, we basically ask the reviewers to use the NIH template, which is basically scoring it from 1 to 9, where 1 is outstanding. So if you're wondering how it's going to be evaluated, you could sort of look at the NIH rubric, and I think it's also outlined in the RFA. So just make sure that you kind of look at it. There's also a page on the RFA where we sort of actually titled, that subsection is titled the application process, and you can use that as like a checklist of what needs to be in the application. So that might be helpful to sort of look at that as your checklist as you go through putting together your application package. The other thing in terms of, because the funds are very limited, we really do not, for budgeting purposes, actually budget for personnel for the PIs, both the community and the academic. However, if you need to hire certain people to do data collection, then that's permissible. But the money is so little, we're really not doing salary or compensation of the PIs. So most of their time is going to be like donated time. But definitely money could be allocated to people who be in the field doing data collection or doing data entry, or maybe a consultant doing the data analysis or what have you. But as much as possible, we want the money to go to the project itself, carrying out the project, and being able to generate the data, pilot data for future application for external funding. Any additional questions? Everything is self-explanatory in the application, and they don't have any questions.
Dr. Sosling, this is Michelle Blunt again from Tulane. So can you elaborate more on the budget? Is that the only allowable expense is what you had mentioned with for data entry, data analysis, for the pilot data? Because I noticed
well, the budget basically, and it's something that we sort of will go over with you if it's selected. So, just like with NIH review, the budget is not factored in the review process in terms of scoring. Mm-hmm. The budget is looked at afterwards, but it's good to at least do a fairly good job in terms of doing your budget and having the budget justification. So things like, if you have to conduct a focus group and compensating the participants, those are all allowable like you would with any other grant. It's just that the salary line for the PIs is not something, because for the academic person, that would pretty much eat up the whole money, which is up to $10,000. So what we want to do is, and this might not be a way to, let's say the community PI is the CEO of the organization. I mean, that would also eat up pretty much all the money. So we rather the money goes to the actual project as opposed to being a salary line for the PIs. But we still know that you need some technical work that has to be done by certain personnel. Those I think you can budget for, whether you're using students or, let community members trained to be able to collect the data and the like. So that's kind of what we want you to think about as you're preparing for that. I think also, too, is with NIH, I guess with the nature of it, we may not be able to do like travel or something like that. But those things we can kind of work it out. But again, it's important to look at those up front. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So related to the budget, is any of it required to go to the community partner? Like if you're working with, I don't know, whatever churches?
Well, we would hope that if you're doing the budget, that it all doesn't go to the academic side, because then that creates the imbalance that we already experienced with a lot of these collaborations. I think honestly, most of the money would go to the community group, because if the work is going to be done in the field and using the network or infrastructure that the community organization has, then, you know, the 10,000 is more likely going to go, the bulk of it, to the community as opposed to the academic institution. So it's going to look very odd if, you know, 9,000 is going to academic and only 1,000 is going to the community when we're talking about a true partnership. So that's something to think about in terms of the budget.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Are there any additional questions?
Are there,
I don't want to. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Dr. Sarpong, it's Michelle Balan again from Tulane. Are there any particular, like, community groups that you're wanting us to target or to partner with?
No, not necessarily. If you already have groups that you're working with, that would be fine to come up with your own groups.
Okay.
If you have an idea that you need some assistance in identifying some groups, then we could look at our network of our CAP members, and maybe we could, through them, we can identify a partner that you would be able to work with. Primarily, we would hope that you already have a working relationship with a community organization. However, if that's not the case, but you need some assistance, then we can provide that assistance to then foster this a partnership. So in your case, it would be a new partnership, but at least you would structure it where there's some balance. Yeah. So if you need some assistance with that, we will work through our various network of community members who serve on our community advisory board to identify an organization that you can work with.
Okay. Thank you. The reason I ask is because I have some relatively new faculty members. So, you know, even though they have, you know, relationships within the community, I'm not sure how developed they are. So that would be very useful. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
let's know ahead early so that because sometimes we have to kind of put the word out to try and figure out who might be a best fit.
Okay.
The first couple might not work out, and you might need to go through a couple iterations. So the earlier we know, the better it may serve those individuals. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, if there are no additional questions, I don't want to hold everybody just because we have an hour allocated for the call. I want to thank you all so much for calling in, and we're here to serve you. So if we didn't answer your question satisfactorily, please let us know, and we'll do our best to try and address it offline. And if there's any questions that come up later on, please drop us an email, and we'll do our best to address it because we do want to see your application. So we want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on this call. So unless there's any burning questions, I think we'll adjourn the call.
Thanks, Dr. Sarpong.
Thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.